Welcome to part 2 from yesterday. I'm glad to see many of you have come back, and hopefully more of your friends will join, inshallah. Bismillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulullah. So yesterday we kind of set up today's presentation by talking about the importance of optimism and its place in Islam, and the support that we find in science of how truly when we adopt an optimistic attitude that it sets us up for success. So I'd like to start off with a reminder of why we need these tools. You may think, okay, why are you talking to me about optimism? Okay, fine, everything, we just live every day and do our best. But we're reminded that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Surah Al-Baqarah, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us that He is going to test us. Same thing like in Surah Al-Mulk, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that He has created this life to test us, which of us will be better in good deeds. Right? So we already know that life has its challenges. So why would we not, as we go to the gym to build up our muscles, as we go and we try to eat good food to be healthy, as we follow our deen as much as possible, why would we not build up these optimistic skills as well? Because some of them we have to undo some work, as we talked about yesterday. We have our automatic negative thoughts. We have to build up those skills, just like we build up our other skills, inshallah, so that we can set ourselves up for success, bi'idhnillah. So I want to do a little bit of review because maybe some of you did not join us yesterday, and also test some of you who were here yesterday. So we have the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Do events cause your feelings, or do thoughts cause your feelings? So if I lose my wallet on the train, does that have to automatically set me up to be upset? Is that an automatic reaction? Or is it how I think about the fact that I lost my wallet on the train, does that cause my feelings? If I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm never gonna get any more money again, I can't believe it, I'm so dumb, I'm so careless, I can't believe, on and on, I'm gonna be upset. Is that something automatic, or is that how I choose to think about the event? So is it number 1, do events cause your feelings? Raise your hand if you think that's the first. So many of you, mashallah, attended yesterday. Or is it number 2, that it's your thought about the event that causes your feelings? Okay, mashallah, it's number 2. It's how you think about it. If you think, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ مَا شَاءَ فَعَلَ, I lost my wallet, it was not meant to be. Okay, there's 300 crowns in there, somebody else will be a little bit richer today. What are you gonna do, right? You move on. It will be completely different than you think like it's the end of the world. SubhanAllah. Okay, another review from yesterday. We have our ABCs. Let's see if you remember. A is for, who remembers the ABC model of thinking? I hear? Adversity. Excellent. A is for adversity, which is the problem. ABC model is A is for adversity, which is the problem. B is for, mashallah, belief. How I think about that problem, right? Which will lead to C, which is, mashallah, mashallah, consequence. It is my thoughts, my belief about the problem that leads me to feel a certain way. It's not the problem in and of itself. Jazakallah khairan. Barakallahu feekum. That's fantastic. So we want to do a little bit of review, a few exercises. Can I have a volunteer? I will have a brother for a sister first, and then we'll have a brother next time. Okay, Jazakallah, join me on stage, please. So we have the problem up here, okay? Oh, okay, I'll finish talking, then I'll give it to you. We have the problem up here, right? You get into an argument with your best friend. You have a choice of thoughts. What's every thought? Pick one of the feelings. They're not in the right order, okay? So if you have a thought, what feeling would you have because of that thought? So go through the first thought and choose the feeling that you think is correct, and then we'll do the second and the third. So read the first thought. Now I don't have any.
No, I don't have any friends.
And maybe you could put the microphone a little closer.
No, I don't have any friends.
So how would you feel if you have that thought? I get into an argument with my friend, I think, now I don't have any friends. It's my best friend, and now we're in an argument. How would you feel? Okay, fantastic. Mashallah, mashallah. Second one.
My friend was acting to me on purpose.
Absolutely. If I think, subhanAllah, and right now, it's just one incident. You get into an argument with your best friend. If I feel like I have no more friends, it's the end of the world, I'm going to be very sad. If I think they were rude to me on purpose, and now I'm going to be upset. And the last thought, Jazakallah. A round of applause for a fantastic volunteer. Jazakallah khairan. Awesome. Do you see how a simple adjustment of our thoughts changes our feeling? And sometimes, because we talked about yesterday, how sometimes our culture, the way our parents raised us, sometimes with over-criticism, we feel bad about every single thing we do. Everything that happens to us, we feel like it's the end of the world. And yet, if we train ourselves to undo some of that automatic negative thinking, we will be much better off, inshallah. And now I have a brother, if I can have a brother volunteer, inshallah, come up to the stage. Don't be shy. Your friends won't make fun of you. It'll only be on social media. Okay, any volunteer? Any volunteer that wants to come up? I see that we're having a convention up here, we're discussing. I think. Okay, brother, then brother, it's you. Jazakallah khairan. You're gonna do a good job. Barakallah feek. Okay, so please read the problem, which is you plan an event. Okay, and start off with the problem. It's up top, you plan an event for your masjid. I didn't. Okay, excellent. So start with the first thought. How would you feel if you think the director is going to be upset with you? Yes, okay, alhamdulillah. You're going to be nervous. How about the next one?
No one appreciates it.
I'm sorry? Oh, appreciates.
Yes, all the work I do.
How would you feel if that's what you think? I did all this work and only 3 people show up. Nobody appreciates what I do. How are you going to feel? You already chose nervous, which was the right for the first. Angry. Yeah. So and then the next one.
I can think about what went wrong and plan better next time. Then I will feel okay.
Barakallah feek. Jazakumullah khairan. Round of applause. I appreciate it. Thank you. We had a brave volunteer. Alhamdulillah, both our volunteers. Jazakumullah khairan. The same event happened, but depending upon how I thought about it, I felt very different. You know, and this happens, you know, some of you are, mashallah, engaged in this Islamic work. Some of you, maybe it's a party that you planned for your friend, a surprise party, and you did, you know, the same, change the event. But bottom line, depending on how we think about things, and sometimes we're so trained for su'u dhann, right? Assuming the worst of the situation. But we have to train ourselves in the Islamic way, in the prophetic way of husn al-dhann, thinking the best of others, thinking the best of the situation. Now it's your turn. Talk amongst your friends. Choose one of these problems. We'll go over each one. And we'll pick another couple of volunteers. This is more of a workshop today, inshallah. Your spouse, your husband or your wife, have been distant lately, and you've been fighting a lot. Bickering is, you know, just keeps fighting over small things, right? And it's those small things that break, unfortunately. So what would you think? What is the negative thing that you could think? And what is the more optimistic thing that you can think, okay, for this first problem? Choose one of these. You and your friend have a disagreement. Now you text and call several times, but he or she won't answer. How many times has that happened? You left kind of on a bad note. You left from school, you left from the mall, and somehow you're texting or calling and they're not answering you. So what thought comes to your mind? What's the optimistic thought? What's the pessimistic thought? And you walk into the masjid, 2 people whisper to each other, they look at you and they start laughing. What's the optimistic thought that you could think, and what's the pessimistic thought that you could think? Talk amongst your friends, think of a couple, and I'm going to choose a few volunteers, inshallah. I'll give you 4 minutes. of you are uncovering your negative thoughts that come automatically. And it can be two of you. Come. No? Okay, at your comfort. You can speak on her behalf if you like. Do we have a volunteer for the first problem? And of course, you would not be expressing your thoughts. It's like people could think this way. Yes? MashaAllah, you guys are volunteering each other. So nice. That's brotherly love. Who would like to come at their own free will? You'll only be remembered for a long time on stage. It's not that much pressure. Who would like to come up? Neda, I think you have some good... Who would like to come? Otherwise, you're going to listen to me more. You can do one. Okay, come. All right. We have a brave volunteer. Alhamdulillah. MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
I was discussing with my daughter.
Okay.
And we had a good one for the last one. The good thing, the bad thing, okay. First. I would think they were laughing at me. And the good thing is that I would ask what they're laughing about, because I think I will laugh too.
Oh, mashallah, fantastic, jazakallah khairan, very good. Absolutely, if we're insecure, we're gonna think, oh my God, they're laughing at me, right? It could be, hey, what's the funny joke you just said? I wanna laugh too, right? The other thoughts can be along the same lines. They were laughing about something else and you just happened to walk in at that time, right? So mashallah, jazakallah khairan, very good. How about one or two? Any other volunteers to choose for one or two? Yes, you rose your hand, come. Very good, we have another brave volunteer. I'm proud of you guys, mashallah. Fantastic. What's your name?
Tasneem.
Tasneem. Okay, tell me which problem you're gonna talk about.
Number 2.
Okay, and put the mic next to you and face the audience, they can see you. What would be the optimistic thing? What would be the positive thing you would think?
I probably think they maybe are in the bathroom or have their phone silent or maybe busy.
Okay, fantastic. Those are the positive thoughts.
And the bad thing is that maybe they don't want to talk to me anymore. Like, we're not friends.
Absolutely. Jazakallah khairan. Fantastic. Thank you. Great job, Tasneem. So far we had Neda and Tasneem. Do we have any brothers that would like to volunteer for the famous one? Come on, number 1. Don't worry, it's not really about your spouse. It's a hypothetical, right? It's not really about you. Any volunteers for number 1? I see someone all the way up there, mashallah. Come on down. MashaAllah. You guys are going to be very optimistic, inshallah, for the next year, bi'idhnillah. We have a brave volunteer, fantastic. And it's a brother too, good job. MashaAllah. Your name?
My name's Hussam.
Hussam?
Yeah.
MashaAllah. Okay, the mic.
Your spouse has I don't like understand the question so much. Can you please?
Yeah. So if like husband and wife are fighting, and a lot lately, what would be the positive thought? What would be the negative thought?
Okay.
They're fighting a lot.
We was talking about if your parents are fighting really much, it could be like they're going to break up or leave each other, or it could be like they're fighting about something really small, but not like so that it doesn't like mean something big.
Fantastic. Jazakallah khairan. Very good, thank you. MashaAllah. See, even the youth, they understand. I'm really impressed. Barakallahu feekum. That's absolutely right. From a kid's perspective, we talked about that yesterday. Whether the husband and wife, they're married, or their parents are married, or whether parents have separated or they're divorced, or, well, those are the two options. If they passed on, then there's not a husband-wife issue. But this really rocks the foundation and the security of the children. So please, we urge parents again today, whether you're married or you are divorced and you're still raising your children, hopefully you're still maintaining a positive relationship. the worst thing that you can do is to argue in front of your kids. It really makes them feel very unstable. And subhanAllah, many reports have shown that kids who come from an unstable home, where they don't feel that security, they go and they seek attention and affection from outside, right? And that's why they engage in risky behavior, whether it's gangs, whether it's sexual promiscuity. So we have to really be aware that the home is the bedrock of security for children. So this is coming from a children's perspective, and I really appreciate that. Same thing between husband and wife. What are some positive thoughts? Okay, we're bickering. Same thing. Either it's going to be a divorce, it's going to end the relationship, or the positive thing can be things like maybe husband or wife is very stressed out at work and they're just taking it out at home. Maybe he's not feeling well or she's not feeling well. Maybe there's something going on that I don't know about. I'm going to give them some space and we'll talk about it later. There's too many things, subhanAllah. And you know, one of the great scholars has said that we should make 70 excuses for our fellow sisters and brothers. And if we cannot make 70 excuses, then the fault is with us. If you have trouble thinking of too many excuses, then there's something wrong with you. So this is an exercise in that as well. Jazakumullah khairan, all of you, for participating in that. I'm really, really proud of all of our volunteers and all of you for participating. I want to give a few more examples. You know, this adversity would be with parenting. If you run into your teenage son and his friends at the mall, and he pretends not to see you, right? You're the parent, you're walking by, you're happy to see your son, oh mashallah, and he's just totally like, don't even look at me, I don't know you, you're not my mom. If you have the belief, how dare he disrespect me? You know, this is like badmash, he's a bad guy, right? Then you're gonna be what? What's the consequence? You're gonna feel angry and you can't wait to lecture him as soon as you get home. How many have you felt like that? When you have a negative thought, like, oh man, when I see so-and-so, I'm gonna let him have it. And they have no idea what's going on. You're just coming in like a storm. But the same problem can happen, and look how we can have a different mentality altogether. Same thing, you run into your teenage son and his friends at the mall, and he pretends not to see you. If I think, subhanAllah, teenagers, that's how they act, right? And what are you gonna do? You're maybe not so excited about it, but you're not so upset. How are you gonna feel? You feel okay and you laugh it off, right? If you're not that modern, then that's okay. Maybe you don't laugh, but you're gonna feel okay. This is a phase, right? So the power of how we think. So yesterday we talked that there's a test that you can take to test your optimism. And there are 6 areas of how the test understands how we think about things. Permanent, temporary, pervasive. And we'll talk about each one. Those are big words, even in English we have to explain it, but alhamdulillah, they mean a lot. And then specific, personal, and impersonal. How we explain things in these 6 categories determines how optimistic or pessimistic we are. Permanent, the cause, whatever the problem is something that will persist forever. It's never gonna change. So kind of like the friend situation. We're in an argument, we're never gonna be friends again. That would be a permanent cause, right? That's something that's pessimistic. Or you can think it's temporary. The cause is changeable or short-lived. I got in an argument with my friend, they're in a bad, we're gonna be friends again, or next week, or whenever. It's something temporary. Or we can think that the cause is pervasive. This one thing that happened is gonna affect the rest of my life. It's gonna affect everything in my life. Or we could think, no, this problem is just specific. It's going to affect only this one area. It's only gonna affect this one thing. We can think that cause of the problem is personal. I'm the cause, it's my fault, I'm the worst person, I'm so dumb, I never do anything right. We can think it's all my fault, right? Or we can think it's impersonal. Either it's something that it wasn't our fault, or if we did it, it was for a reason temporary. It was a temporary reason. I was tired, I was sleepy, so I'm not dooming myself. You will see that each of these are divided. So between permanent thought and a temporary, which one is more optimistic? That a problem is permanent or that a problem is temporary? Permanent is optimistic or temporary? MashaAllah, temporary. this problem is going to pass, right? It's not going to last forever. Pervasive, specific. This one problem is going to affect every single thing. It's going to affect my work, my marriage, it's going to affect my kids, their future, their children's future, right? Is it pervasive? It's going to affect everything? Or this one problem, is it only going to affect something specific, right? Which one is more optimistic? Pervasive or specific? Specific, excellent. Personal versus impersonal. Everything is my fault and I'm doomed and I'm horrible. Or impersonal, where it's either my fault and it was something just an accident, or it's not, it's something out of my control. Which one would be the more optimistic way to think about a problem? Personal or impersonal? Impersonal. Barakallahu fikum. That's fantastic. So we get an example of this. You know, if Layla got a C, I'm not sure how you guys do grades in Sweden. Do you guys use letters? Okay, alhamdulillah. It's a percentage?
No, it's the same.
That's the same, okay, alhamdulillah. So Layla gets a C in her English essay, and this is a real example actually, a real example from a youth. Her mom told me this. And this is how she thought about it. She started crying, she was upset all night, she was very stressed out. She says, how am I going to get into honors English, which is like the next level, better English, with a C? Without honors English, I won't get onto the honors roll, like a distinction in the class or in the grade. And without being on the honor roll, I won't get into a good college. Literally, she went from, this is something, one grade in a class, one essay in English, and she took it that it's going to ruin her whole English career, and then her whole high school career, and now she won't even get into a good college. So she went permanent, pervasive, and personal. Everything negative, subhanAllah, everything on the pessimistic side. So now she feels like a loser, and she feels like giving up. And subhanAllah, a lot of students at this age, if they mess up in one thing, then they don't feel like trying in other things, maybe even in math or in other subjects that they're doing very well in. So us as parents, we have to really, you know, and as youth directors and people that work in the masajids, and as older siblings and as aunts and uncles, we really have to be aware of kids and how they're trying to figure out all these feelings, right? They need some of that guidance. We talked about yesterday where some of this negativity comes from. It could be that children were raised in a home where the parents were very stressed out. And instead of the kids understanding it's the parents' problem, instead they think my parents don't love me, I'm bad. And we carry that baggage with us as adults. Being, alhamdulillah, an active member of the community, unfortunately, we try to help people with their marriage problems or the youth with their problems. And it's something very well understood. A broken child will grow up to be a broken adult. And when a broken adult gets married, they have a broken marriage. And they will raise children in that same way because that's how they understand. So I'm not saying everybody has to go and get therapy, but I'm saying with our tools that we're learning today and with our Islamic principles of trying to be merciful and compassionate, just like Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was with his wives, with his kids, with the members of the community, even when they made mistakes, we have to follow that same example. And not just, life goes on, I need to cook dinner, okay, I just came back from work, I'm tired, don't talk to me about your problems. Children will find a way to figure out how to solve their problems, and if you're not part of the solution, they're going to find it elsewhere, and it may not be the right solution. So how do you criticize? Right, one of the ways in which we affect children is how we criticize, right? How we say, you know what, you're not doing enough, you didn't do well enough, what's wrong with you, how come you're not praying? And we go on and on and on. One study was done and they found that even girls and boys in the classroom, at least in the United States, were criticized differently. And this is very, subhanAllah, it's something subconscious, but it's something very detrimental that the girls pick up. They're criticized differently. Girls' criticism on their grades is linked to ability. So for example, which is permanent and unchangeable, right? You're just not able to do it. It's unchangeable and it's permanent. So for example, if a girl is not doing well in English, and the teacher says, you know what, you're just not cut out for English, you're not good at it, done. So that girl does not feel motivated to say, oh, well, you need to, practice, you need to read more. If you read more, you're gonna learn how to spell, you're gonna learn how to write, so on and so on. But boys, on the other hand, they're criticized differently. They're criticized on their behavior. And their behavior is something changeable. So if the teacher says, you know what, Muhammad, you're just not paying attention enough. I need you to get better grades and pay attention. If he wants to, he could just pay attention. I'm not criticizing his ability to do math. Does that make sense? We have to be aware also, how are we encouraging our youth? Are we sending them negative messages when we are trying to encourage them, but in the end, we kind of squash them? I want to give a few examples. And I'm telling you, even if you have younger siblings, if you're in a classroom, if you're in a masjid environment, you have the ability to use these skills right away. So pessimistic, permanent is on the left, optimistic is on the right. If a child is acting wild in the convention, he's throwing himself on the floor, right? You can say, Omar, what's wrong with you? You're acting like such a brat, or you're acting like such a bad boy. Or instead, you could say, Omar, you're really misbehaving today, and I don't like this behavior. So it's the behavior that I'm criticizing. This skill that we're talking about can be used with adults, it can be used with children, it can be used with coworkers, with friends. When the imam is addressing the community, we should address behavior or things that we want to change and not the people. Not youth, you guys are lost. No, that's not how you encourage youth. You say this particular behavior, we need to fix it. Or in the masjid, I'm seeing this and we need to change it. If we want to ask someone to clean up, I asked you to clean up your room on the left. Why don't you ever do what I ask? You never do what I ask, right? It's permanent, never. Instead, you can just say, I asked you to clean up your room. Why didn't you do what I asked? Why didn't you do what I asked? It's not that, it's something you never do, right? One thing nice to remember in any relationship, never use always and never. You never do this or you always do this. It's so tempting to say, but don't use it. Be more specific. You can say to a child, you cried all day, you're such a crybaby, you're so sensitive. You're teaching the kid, that person is always so sensitive. Or, oh, don't worry, this kid is so shy. You're labeling that child and now they believe this is who they are. I'm rowdy, I'm a brat, I'm shy, I'm whatever. But instead you're saying you're having a really hard time being away from me. Instead of calling them a crybaby, you're acknowledging that they just want to be with you, and what's wrong with that? So for us to understand how, I'm going to just do a couple of more, how that we can change the way we discuss our problems, it's very important. Same thing, for example, if you tell a kid, you're such a bad boy, you're telling him he's bad. Instead, you can just say the action, you're teasing your sister too much, right? Could be more specific. And another aspect, if you want to talk about somebody's skill, don't say you're not athletic or you're not good at sports. You could just say you have to work harder on whatever skill, dribbling the basketball, or whether it's dribbling the soccer ball across the field or the football, however you guys use that term. Same thing, another C-, I guess you're not an A student. You're just telling that kid there's no hope for you. Where instead you can say, another C-, you need to spend more time on your studies. Do you see the difference? If we spend more effort on choosing our words wisely, we can have much more positive interactions with our family members, with our co-workers, with our spouse, with our friends. Let's take another minute and try this out. We'll have a couple of volunteers come up to the stage. A member of your team, this could be a voluntary team, it could be a team at school for a school project, or it can be maybe you're a manager at work. A member of your team is not meeting deadlines and is affecting the success of many projects and events. How would you approach this conversation? Somebody is being flaky, right? You assign them a task and they don't show up, or they don't do it, or they're always late, they're not taking it seriously. How can you approach this person? Okay, now we're not going to do always and never, so that's one hint. Take a few minutes, and then we'll ask a couple of volunteers to share with us, inshallah. Okay, do we have a volunteer? I see many of you, mashallah, the minds are going. Okay, the one that's waving their hand really, really big in the blue, I think. Come on down, yes, and the white. Come on down, both of you guys. We'll do a 2 for 1. And you, sister, as well, waving in the back. Come on, yes. And you too, you guys were waving so big. Where'd you guys go? To be more efficient, the people in the front should volunteer. Who else? Yes, if you raise your hand in the back as well. Crooked arm. Whoever would like to volunteer, come up. Jazakallah khairan. What's your name?
Aisha.
Aisha, okay, Aisha. So, how would you talk to this member of your team? In a positive way.
Yes, sweet English.
That would be better.
Okay.
You can do it.
Okay.
Or if you like, you can do it in Swedish, if you like. And you tell me if she did a good job. How about that? That's.
Okay, I would.
You could say it in Swedish if you like.
I would tell them to försöka. Can I say it?
Yeah, say it. They will tell me if you did a good job. I'm counting on you guys.
I would tell them to try. Nej, I would tell them.
You're doing good. You're doing good. You're doing good.
Okay,
Say it in your language.
jag skulle sagt till dem att de skulle försöka. I would tell them to try better. Alltså, try to.
Okay, you did a good job.
Jag skulle peppa dem till att göra bättre. För sen sagt till dem, alltså om det är bättre du själv, då kommer hjälpa oss alla, förstår du?
Did she do good? Yes? They said you did a good job.
Ska gå.
Translation? Jazakallah khairan. You guys understood. Fantastic. Good job, mashallah. Okay, we have more chances. Thank you, Aisha. Excellent job. So the way that we address our people on the team, you want to come up? Yes. You want to translate? Okay, fantastic. What? Say that again.
The last point.
Yes.
Communication is a very important part of this game.
Yes.
If we have good communication and we listen to each other, maybe it can be positive. We can ask, it is maybe if you think it is better for our success, but what do you think? It's a welcome to approach the other team members also.
That's fantastic.
It will be very effective for the team success. Because if we didn't have a best communication, like in family, same part father and mother.
Yes.
We have a communication with our children, then we understand what they think and what our parents. Yeah, so but always it's important to listen to others. It's very important point. We cannot express that if we can do, but we first welcome other team members that can do this.
Yes. Jazakallah khair. Thank you. Yes. Yes.
And if not, like I would talk to them and I would see if it's like a problem we have at home, like or something. They could be like, think, oh, through life. So if not, you have to like dig deeper. Because I don't think like they want to dress the team down. Obviously, they don't want to be a win. So I would hope to help them and find a strategy.
Alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan. Thank you. MashaAllah. Amazing. So one sister was talking about get other people's opinion, right? That's how you have good communication, which is fantastic in any family environment or work environment. And the other sister mentioned about how it's important to say, is there something going on? Some bosses will start the conversation like that, and that's amazing. They'll find out my mother has cancer, something's going on at home, instead of coming, you're not meeting your deadline, you're gonna get a bad reaction. So, Jazakumullah khairan to both of you for that. So what's important for us you're going to have an automatic negative thought when something happens. It's going to keep working, right? Shaitan is there just making waswasa, and you have to kind of go against it. And our mind is doing it without us thinking, right? So let's give an example. Your mother is yelling at you a lot lately, right? So here's all the negative thoughts. All the negative thoughts in the world are coming up. So you're thinking first,